I'm pretty sure everybody's seen this, but for those of you who haven't, we've got Michael Lombardi. I want to say he was a former
as you go down,
executive, NFL executive, right?
He was a former GM with the Raiders, I want to say.
Huh. Okay.
Which actually I have something to say about that in a second. But go ahead.
Check this out.
As you go down this road with Lance, it just becomes harder and harder and harder. And you can show all the clips of him moving and all that stuff. At the end of the day, when his mama lifted him from the crib, he just didn't have that quarterback instinct. He's not going to be the backup quarterback. I don't know what they're going to do with him, but there's no chance. There is no chance based on the evidence that I've seen and based on what I've heard.
Michael, I asked you this before we ended the Lombardi line yesterday on VSiN. I think that he might be competing to stay on the 53-man roster. Like, is that where we're at with Trey Lance right now? Like, are these reps looking for him to be able to say, can he stay on this roster and be a viable 49er?
Well, I think you got to look at this, right? Like, you know that once you reach a conclusion on a player, okay, once you really have a handle on who the player is, then you've got to make some decisions.
Okay. So that is what Michael Lombardi had to say about Trey Lance. And what I want to address specifically is when he said when his mama picked him up out of the crib, he did not have that quarterback instinct. Who the fuck do you think you are saying that shit, dude? Like, come on. You're a former, you said GM, right? You think he was a GM with the Raiders, or he was?
I'll search him up right now. Continue.
Okay. All right. So maybe you can criticize Lance's quarterback ability, but don't make it personal as if like, the circumstances around him didn't have a factor into why he's not a quarterback to be ready to start today. Right? Like it's just sad. Like, you have to attack this kid's character. He's 23 years old. He's younger than me, right? Maybe I haven't met my full potential yet, right? There's circumstances that go into that shit, right? But I'll be damned if somebody's going to say that I didn't have it when my mom picked me up as a child. That's flat out disrespectful. It's uncalled for. It's just straight up unprofessional. And I don't know. That to me, he didn't say when his mom, he didn't say when his mommy, he said when his mama. I don't know. There's a little racial undertone right there. You can call it racism. You can call it a critique of his play or not. I don't really give a shit. It's uncalled for. What other quarterback gets this treatment? He didn't say Zach Wilson didn't have it when his mama picked him up. He didn't say Baker Mayfield didn't have it. He didn't say Kyle Trask. All the national media is just talking about Trey Lance, and they know he garners the most attention. And look, we're fucking talking about it right here, right?
Yeah.
The Niners moved up all this draft capital to get him. I get it, right? But you don't have to take a personal shot and mention his mom or any of his family members for that matter, because at the end of the day, you have to remember he's a human and his parents love him, and maybe he won't be a successful quarterback. And you can talk about the reasons why he won't be a successful quarterback. You can talk about the fact that he's fighting for his job. But come on. Keep his mom's name out your mouth. I love how I curse on the show like almost constantly, but I censored myself there on like something that I was quoting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wonder from a media perspective, like, I was going to say it earlier with Grant Cohn, like, it seems like the media and everybody, they love a success story. So, like, Patrick Mahomes and whoever, but they also love the big bust story, and, like, just seeing it unfold and then eventually being right about it. And I think that's where the stage is right now, is everybody's calling it like, oh, he's a bust, he sucks, and they're waiting for it to be right. And then when they cut him or they let him go or whatever, or if he just somehow proves it, like, yeah, he sucks, then everybody's gonna be like, yeah, we all knew this, blah blah blah, and then who cares? But right now, it's like it's obviously a big topic because of all the investment they had in him and just how it seems how wrong that decision was, right? I don't know what it is. Everybody loves to talk about it. I was going to mention earlier, like, it's interesting how Trey Lance gets all of this talk and is the talk of kind of the offseason, at least in the negative side of news, right? But how badly he played in that game overshadowed how well Aiden O'Connell played in that game. You know, that's what the media was talking about is, oh, Trey Lance, horrible game. And then, like, really quickly, Aiden O'Connell did pretty good, though. But it wasn't like, wow, this Aiden O'Connell kid, 15 for 18 and a touchdown, like, really good. You know, the best rookie in week 1 of the preseason, undoubtedly, statistically. You know, I don't know. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Really quickly on Michael Lombardi. Michael Lombardi is an American football executive and media analyst. This is on Wikipedia, so, you know. Until this is interesting. Until 2016, he was an assistant to the coaching staff of the New England Patriots and is a former analyst for NFL Network and a sports writer or a former sports writer at NFL.com. They don't make it clear there. Lombardi also previously served as an NFL executive with the San Francisco 49ers, Cleveland Browns, Philadelphia Eagles, Denver Broncos, and Oakland Raiders. He hosts his own podcast, yada, yada. I want to say he was the GM for the Browns and the Raiders. The interesting thing to me about Michael Lombardi and him saying all this the week after, you know, the Raiders beat them or beat down Trey Lance, whatever you want to call it, right? The interesting thing to me are these two names, Mick and Matt. Do you know who Mick and Matt are?
Mick and Matt?
Mm-hmm. Mick and Matt.
Who?
They are his two sons who are both on the Raiders coaching staff. Mick Lombardi is the offensive coordinator. Matt Lombardi is the offensive assistant, specifically wide receiver coach assistant. So, I mean,
So
he
are
has
you saying
previous.
his? Do you think that maybe Mick and Matt saw Lance at practice and maybe fed him some inside information that, you know, he didn't look very good against the Raiders?
I mean, I would assume they talk. I'm not really suggesting that. It's more of like just the fact that he has ties to the team that, you know, he's kind of reacting to Lance playing.
Mm-hmm.
And you're probably onto something. Like, they probably talked about it. And maybe Mick, who is, again, the offensive coordinator and has, you know, a good amount of years experience coaching, specifically under the Patriots. And, of course, McDaniels brought him with him, right? So maybe Mick Lombardi, who probably has a few thoughts on quarterbacks and such, saw Lance and was like, I don't see it. Or maybe it was the preseason game. I don't know. But, you know, I don't want to put words in their mouths or anything. It's just interesting that Michael Lombardi would go say something. And it's not like he said, like, something that would get him canceled, right? But, like, still, it's like, it was pretty insensitive. And you have two sons who are on coaching staffs. Like, just chill out, dude.
Like, how would Lombardi like it if the Raiders were not successful and I said, hey, you know, his sons they just didn't have it to be a coach or to be anywhere near the NFL when their mama picked them up from the crib. Right. Like, honestly, his critique of Lance, like, most of it is fair. It's like a fair criticism of Lance. It's just that every team doesn't let it go. But what he said that I had an issue with was the whole crib thing. His mama picking him up. It's unprofessional. There's no room for shit like that. Come on. Like, I don't know if he was trying to be funny, but it's just Lance constantly gets piled on by the media. And yeah, man. What Lance and the media kind of reminds me of, and I see a comment. We'll get to that in a second. What Lance and the media kind of reminds me of is this South Park episode where they're constantly watching Britney Spears and like are interested in her downfall. Like they love it. I'm not gonna play the whole clip, but I'll play a little bit of it because I think the clip kind of gets to some territory.
Watch, keeping you up to date with all your Britney Spears news. Oh boy, what's she done now?
Imagine
Britney
that's
Spears
Lance.
has been spotted camping in the Colorado mountains, and one report claims that she has taken a piss in the forest. Robert Pooner has more. Ron, I'm standing in South Mark, Colorado, where Britney Spears has apparently been trying to get away from it all.
Oh, dude, that's our town.
Mrs. Spears was stuck at a mountain campground. You won't believe what she did, Ron. The
I'll cut it off there because the next scene they show Britney doing what they said that she was doing, but on a ladybug. So I'll leave it at that. But it's just like the constant, the constant banter on him. You know what I mean? He's the backup quarterback. So I don't know. I just think the national media, they should have other shit that they should want to talk about rather than the Niners' second or possibly third string quarterback. But I get it. I am interested in the player because this is the guy who the 49ers said is going to be their future franchise guy. And he hasn't been that to this point.
Yeah.
But going back to Michael Lombardi, it's just uncalled for. Unprofessional. Be better.